This is new to us. We're having a hard time projecting because we don't know the families that are moving in. This slide is just an overview of how much state dollars are we generating per student unweighted FTE member before their program, education program category, and then the local dollars per unweighted. So this year, we're generating 4,000. Now, this is not the state numbers. This is St. Johns County, $4,685.11 state, and $4,033.47 local, for a total of $8,718.58 for St. Johns County student. I'm sorry, these are state numbers. And for next year, $4,886.52 and $4,072.07 local, for a total of $8,958.59, or an increase of $240.01 per student. And then, as you can see, our percentages, again, this is state, the percentage, 53.74% state money, 46.26 local. And then next year, the state goes up just a smidge. Remember, this is just the first, these numbers will change once we get the second calculation. And 45.45 local for next year. So now we just want to break down for St. Johns County. Where are we for St. Johns County? And I know a lot of the numbers are going to look the same, but there's a rhyme to my reason here. We've already talked about the full-time equivalent for St. Johns County that we're growing with scholarships, 2,578.80 FTE. Our base student allocation, we already know, is going up $191.25, and then our total funds per student. Now, these are St. Johns County numbers. Right now, we receive this, as of the third calculation, $8,658.74. Next year, we're projected to grow to $8,913.66. So that is a funds per unweighted FTE students of $254.92 increase, or 2.94%. If we look at our base funding, again, we're talking, this is a growth from the third calculation to the first. Those numbers pretty much staying the same, and they haven't changed, 25.3. But the funding we're receiving, again, the point I wanted to make here is these dollars coming in have to be spent in these categories. ESC guarantee allocation is projected to grow 2.4 million. The mental health assistance allocation, increase of 399,714. State school allocation, 586,050. SAI, or the educational enrichment allocation, 512,000. Remember, the DJJ funding is going away. Student transportation allocation going up $760,693, and our class size reduction going up $901,740. There again is our state fund discretionary supplement to help us with the vouchers. There's our 0.748 mil compression that we just talked about that is going down because our property values are going up. And then what we will generate for the discretionary local effort of that 0.748 is an increase of $3.6 million. So when you look at our total funds, right now as we speak for the third calculation versus next year's projections, again, $36,505,662, or a 7.95% increase. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. So we're going to take that increase of $36.5 million, and now we have to start backing off where those dollars are going to go. So we know we're going to have student growth in our district of 1,135 students, just not including scholarships. Here's the scholarship students, but this is for St. Johns County. Multiply it by your base student allocation and your comparable wage factor. So just for our growth, we have to take off $6 million off the top for our growth. The family empowerment scholarships are growing. Now you do the same type of formula, however, it's not as clean. The family empowerment scholarship the students generate anything between $7,812.83 to $11,484.94. On the high end, it's due to their IEPs. Okay, so we're going to have $10.5 million that the Department of Education is going to take from the St. Johns County and give it to the scholarship program, to those that are in that program. Our ESE guarantee allocation, again, just the growth has got to come off the top of our $36 million, so that's I'm just going to round $2.4 million. Our mental health assistance allocation of $399,000 comes off the top. When they've used their safe school allocation, same thing, $586,000. Our educational enrichment allocation, it grew $512,985. Student transportation grew $760,000. So again, those dollars have to come out of the top because that's the increase from one year to the next. Line 11 is the teacher salary increase allocation, and this is the dollars that we just heard about earlier, the maintenance bucket of money on our base funding. So we take our base funding and we multiply that by the 5.59%. So we've set aside, we've already built into the budget last year, $18.4 million because it's for the prior year's negotiated increases. New is the 1.07% to be used for increases this year, and that amount is $3,538,740. Our instruction materials, you'd be like, Gretchen, why do you have that up there? It's zero. The reason we're leaving the instruction materials up there is last year when they rewrote the FEFP, they moved a couple of buckets of money up into the base allocation. Base funding. When they did that, that sounds great. That world went away, although it really is hard to track now, but it's still an unfunded mandate as we still have their requirements to these dollars that we have to provide. We have to continue buying textbooks. So as we continue buying textbooks, you can see the additional money we're going to receive for our growth and our students. There isn't any more. Same thing with the reading instruction allocation. We're not receiving any of that, but the reading program that has to be certified. Dawn has to take it to the board every August, and it's got to be board approved. Superintendent has to sign off on the instruction materials. Dawn also brings that to him. So Mr. Fortson needs to sign that we say we're getting textbooks out of this. The teacher supply assistance allocation, you all know that. That's our, your dollars this year was $300 for our teachers, guidance counselors. That's $300. We're not receiving any extra money for that, although it's a set aside, that's for our new employees. And so when you start at the top at $36.5 million and you take off just what we have to put back into these programs for the growth, we're left with $11.5 million. Going to the next page. So now we start looking at our operating increases now. We have done our best, I've done our best to try and estimate these increases, but it's only March. We're working with the group who belong to the consortium on FISBIT for the property insurance premium renewal. It's estimated to increase, it could go up to 25%, although we're hoping it will stay right around 20% for our premium increase of 1.9 million. The good thing was we didn't have a hurricane affect us this year, although some of the counties in our consortium it did. So that's what our insurance premium, just like your home insurance premium, has gone up. Student transportation, we have, Gretchen, why do you have that number on there? You get funded from the state. Next year, we're projected to receive $16 million in transportation categorical. We spend anywhere between $22 and $23 million in the last couple of years. And that's over our categorical amount, or the dollars we receive. So it's going to come from somewhere. So we're estimating it's about a 14% increase of $2.9 million. So we need that. We have to keep running those school buses. Mr. Pantano has to keep trying to find bus drivers for us. Our youth resource contracts with St. Johns County Sheriff's Office and San Augustine Police Department. This is really the only number that I am fuzzy on, because I don't know what they're doing with bargaining. Whatever they pay their deputies, they charge us. So, and we have 2 new schools opening up this year. So we're gonna have more deputies, which will probably bring, additional staffing needs on the sheriff's office. So we've got to look and see, what that's gonna come in at. We don't know yet. On the medical insurance side, this has nothing to do with rates. This is just for the new employees we're having to hire. This is the board portion that they have to pay on behalf of those employees. We've got utilities with our electricity, water, and sewer. We have a 3-year trend increase in expenses of 16%, or $1.3 million more. Rates are going up. Steve and Kate, and they're doing everything they can with the facilities folks to try and keep our utilities and electricity down. But SJEA, they're raising the rates. They don't give us any notice. We just get the email that says, hey, rates are going up. Same thing with water and sewer. Line 22 is the Florida retirement system. This year we were blessed. There wasn't an increase like we've seen in the past, although the estimated increase in our spend with more employees is $4.5 million. And one of our board policies are to try and maintain the same as the state statute. So state statute said school districts can't have a fund balance below 3%. So as our revenue grows, our $36 million, we have to maintain our 3% growth for general or for fund balance. So we have to set aside for a rainy day. I mean, we have to be able to pay our bills. So that 3% increase to our $36 million increase in revenue, it's a little over $1 million. This is one of the ESE program updates we were talking about earlier. We're having to move access and behavior movement units around to different schools. We have a lot of population growth there, and that's projected to be a 1.1 million increase for expenses. And it's redoing classrooms. It's adding classrooms. I mean, the students are coming, and we need to get those prepared. Lines 25 and 26 we're opening 2 new K-8s in August. We've got Trout Creek Academy and Lakeside Academy. This is for 4 staff. Now, looking at the numbers and looking at these numbers are a little light. I didn't staff them fully, so that number is going to change for those staff units. However, we don't have, you can say, well, there's not that many kids coming into St. Johns County. Where are they coming from? They're in relocatables right now. The boundary changes that we've done, Nicole has gone to the board to do rezoning. That's why we're taking the kids out of the relocatables from the overpopulated schools, and we're going to move them to Trout Creek and Lakeside Academy. That's just a little bit, because next year, that's for this August of 2024, August of 2025, we're going to open up another K-8, PP, called PP, and half the year staffing for that is approximately $210,000, $211,000. In September, our ESSER funding ends. We have to have it spent out. We have 266 positions funded out of ESSER right now. 162 of them will revert back to the general fund. 104 will probably go back to IDEA funding. But the 162 that will transfer back in, that's about $3.9 million. And that's just salaries, that's not benefits. Our substitutes, as we continue to grow, our teaching staff, our substitutes continue to grow, so that's approximately $900,000. So what we started off with $36 million, we're now down to a minus 9.9. And I know you're going to say, well, Gretchen, you always come with bad news. Well, I'm just going to tell you what we have. If we didn't have a lot of those unfunded mandates, that would be great. But again, this is just a snapshot of what we see is going to happen within the next year. A couple of things to remember before we go on. We should be receiving the 4th calculation in April, usually mid to late April, early May. Sometimes we can have a funding change, so these numbers will change. We'll update them as soon as we get the 4th calculation in. But again, once they true them up in October, we receive what's called the 5th and final count. calculation, so we'll adjust those numbers again. Remember, the second goes overlaps the years, because even though we haven't received the fourth calculation yet, we don't know what's gonna happen, we don't know where our numbers are, because they have to take into account the student survey count from February. Just an FYI, and I probably said this before, last year, after the survey count ended in February, we had 500 kids enrolled in our district, and we didn't receive funding for them. 500, that's a lot. So that's textbooks, we have to make sure they have textbooks and supplies. So if the students aren't here during that date certain time, we don't receive money for it, unless it's in October, and they don't for it at least after year. And I know this is super, super small, but you know us in trend data. This is our overall financial condition, and this is as of June 30th, 2015, and you can see every year as we go forward, so we end with June 30th, 2023. The reason we've stopped at 2023, those books have been audited, they're closed, they're done. So what does this mean? These are our different categories of fund balance. We have non-spendable, which is anything consumable that you can't convert it to cash. We have restricted. These dollars are set aside for, we had more money left. And you can see over the years where we've come from for restricted. Committed are the dollars that we've set aside. The board has set aside, we've set aside. Assigned money are a lot of the dollars that belong to schools, like our AP and IB money. And then our unassigned is anything that's not ending up in these above categories. So you can see since 2015, we had a fund balance of $48.2 million. And you can see through the years, 2016, they're at 47.8 at the end of 2017, 54.9 in 2018, 62.8 in 2019, 2020, we were at 64.6. We started coming down to 65, 68.5, 48.1, and 43. One of the items, when you look at the unassigned column, you can see where the dollars were over the years. This year, we didn't have anything in unassigned. We didn't have any money left. And you can see the increases and decreases on fund balance. So we were down 5.1 million, up 4.7, up 7, up 7, up 1.8, up 3.8, down 20.3, down 4.2. So the last couple of years, since the pandemic, since the teacher salary increase allocation, since a bunch of mandates coming in, our fund balance has come down. When we look at our total revenue coming in, and then we take it based on a percentage of our assigned and unassigned percentage or our financial condition ratio, you can see where we're at for fund balance percentage. We're at 5.6% right now as we speak. Florida statute says the school district cannot be below 3%. So we've come down. These were the good old times, 15.1%. Mr. Dugutis did quadrant way back here. He was doing great. Oh, and then as our fund balance started coming down, you'll see that. Again, here's a visual of what you just seen. If you look at our categories of non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, unassigned, and total, with the ebbs and flows, but you can see for the last, since 2021, our numbers have come down. Our fund balance has come down, our unassigned, 0. So it really tells a story. We just went out and issued debt for 2 more K-8s and rating agencies, people in New York, all around, investors, they're really looking at this. They're looking at our financial position, and this speaks volumes. This is part of our presentation we present to them. And Mr. Dugutis started this back in 2010-11, and I thought it was amazing. If you just look at for the state, this is the whole state of Florida, what the budget was back in 2010-11 for the state was $70.4 billion for the state. Next year, it's projected to be $117.46 billion, which makes sense, there's a lot more people here now. But when you look at the categories, general government, the correction system, transportation and natural resources, education. Now, this is just not K-12 education, it's universities and colleges also. Healthcare, social services, and then the judicial branch. So if you focus right now just on education, again, this is K-12 plus universities or colleges. Back in 10-11, their sector, the education sector, received $22.5 billion, or 32% of the pie. Next year, it's projected to be $32.1 billion, or 27% of the pie. And we are the, oh, thank you. I think there's 3 more. I forgot about those. One more. Okay, so the total state budget increased by $47.6 billion, or 67%. Education portion increased by $9.6 billion, or 42%. And our slice is only 27% when it used to be 32%. So we are getting a smaller piece of a larger pie. And when you look at this, each of the departments or areas grew, except we were the smallest growth next to healthcare and social services. So a lot of the programs that we are, education and healthcare, as people are coming to Florida with kids, and a lot of our older new residents are coming in. So just a snapshot on the state of Florida and what the picture looks like since 2010. Anybody have any questions before I come down? Go ahead.
Can.
We can come down.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the question I ask you every year. How much have you transferred from capital outlay into the general fund? Or do you plan on?
Yes.
How much do you plan on it?
I don't have it now, but I'll get it for you.
Okay.
And it, we usually do because of the relocatables, because of the employees working directly on the schools. We can only use those if they're working on the schools, but I'll get that for you.
Okay.
But we haven't done any yet.
Okay.
So you have, I've seen it every year, you do a prediction on utilities, you do a trend.
Yes.
But what has been the actual increase every year? So you predicted whatever it was, I don't remember, I'm sorry. Just because I didn't take a picture of that and I don't have it in front of me.
That's right. I have.
But so what is the actual, like, if you're really budgeting, like, what is the real increase? So that what is the increase every year instead of predicting what it's going to be potentially?
So we budgeted 2 years ago, $10 million, $9 million, and it came in at 11. The next year, we bumped it up to $10 million. It went up to 12.
Okay.
Now we're budgeting right now for this year, 13 million.
Okay.
But again, the bills are only from January.
Right.
So we still have 6 months to go.
Right. No, I understand that.
And the percentages, it varies. It goes anywhere between 18% and then a low end of 11%. So on average, that's where it is. Yes. Actual numbers.
We understand that we receive funding from Medicaid for billing for ESE purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that reflected in our revenue? And is that
That's 124,000
124?
in salaries.
Okay. Jesse? Okay. I think that's all we have.
Just need the agenda back up. Let's just make some copies and Morgan will drop the rest of that PowerPoint in when she's.
Thank you.
For the second. Second presentation is just insurance. Yeah. Who's doing that one? Jay. Five of them.
Oh. Yeah, because they don't have access to Teams, so it's not enough. Can we have a few more at some point so I can give it to all of SJEA?
Sure.
Bill?
Yes.
I mean, the teachers can have access to it. I mean, if you guys are going to ask us to bring hard copies of stuff, then you should bring hard copies for everyone too.
It's fine. We just
Okay.
said yes.
Okay.
Okay. We'll get more copies made.
Okay. Thank you.
I think next, I'll leave the agenda went down. I think it's insurance
It is.
presentation
Yep.
next.
No. So, is that volume okay?
Can't hear you.
Probably.
It must not be on.
I don't think it's.
You may have to move it closer to you. Or if you want the mic, that
Let
mic.
that little mic aim up towards you a little bit more. Yeah.
Oh, you had it tucked under your lapel. That's why I think you flip it over.
Yeah, flip it to the other side.
If you're not going to stand up, you could probably just use
Do it
this
on the
mic.
inside. You're good.
Oh, there you go.
This side. Yeah.
There you go.
What about that?
Yep.
Got it up. So, I want to start by saying the insurance committee has not made a formal recommendation at this point in time. So what I'm going to share with you is just the insurance update up until this point. With that being said, a subcommittee has been created to look at the same information, and hopefully we'll get back with the insurance committee and we'll decide at that point what we're going to recommend. But I want to draw your attention first. I want to go over enrollment, which is the top left corner, the graph in the top left. So currently we have about 4,500 subscribers. So that's employees on the plan. So Gretchen has sheets and seats. When I talk about insurance, subscribers are the people that are paying for it. Belly buttons are including dependents. 4,500. So you can see by the chart, it's almost equal as far as both plans, who subscribe or what they're enrolled in. About 48% of our employees are enrolled in Hospital One, which is considered our basic plan. And then about 52% are enrolled in the Hospital Two, which is considered a buyout plan. So family, of course, it's a little bit more than the family level on buyout. The bottom left corner is showing our average claims per employee per month. So we went back to 21, 22. Here you can see in years 21, 22, years 22, 23, we were rolling along and our claims were about 860 per member per month. In 23, 24, which is that last bar, you see a significant increase of 24%, and now claims are costing us about a little over $1,000 per member per month. So a lot of things contribute to that. Enrollment. So we've got more people on the plan, so that costs more, we spend more money. The cost of things going up. But what I really want to hone in on is we have a particular category of people on the plan that are considered high cost claims. So that's anybody that has claims over $200,000 per year. So we look at those people very carefully. Last year, for the entire year, that particular category of people has spent $2.7 million. So far, these numbers are through February, so we're not finished with the year yet. That same category of people has spent already $5.2 million, so almost double. So that is where you see that big spike. So that's definitely a big piece of that contribution to that big spike. So when the actuaries look at that, they consider all of that, the knowns, the unknowns, the cost, where treatment is going. They have come back and they have said to us, if you want to continue to offer the plans that you offer currently, this is what you need to bring in to cover the cost of those plans. And that number is about 21%. So they're saying we need to increase our rates to cover those by 21%. That is actuary. The beauty of self-funding is we can do that, or we can decide to do something else. Again, I go back to my original statement, insurance committee does not have a formal recommendation at this point. So we will look and decide what we think is going to be best for us, and make a formal recommendation to the board. Any questions?
So aside from like prescription costs and the amount of people that we've enrolled on the plan, are there other trends that we are showing that have not necessarily occurred in the past that's making this such a large spike?
So that cost of care,
Mhm.
which in my experience has always increased.
Right.
So that's not a surprise. It's the number of, I would say, the cost of the treatment,
Okay.
the types of treatments, they're more, and they're more expensive. And then the number of people that have medical, that require medical.
And is there one plan, is like the hospital 1 or hospital 2 plan seeing more of an increase in, well, I guess it's showing that it's hospital 2, are seeming to cost more at this point?
Well, when the actuaries look at those numbers, they rate it by the entire plan, so they don't break it out,
Okay.
one plan over the other. So I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Okay. And it is my understanding that the actuary does not take into account the fund balance
Yes.
for the
I
insurance
meant to say
account,
that.
correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So they don't care where the money comes from. They
Okay.
just said, this is what you need to be bringing in. They
And-
don't care where the money comes from, who pays what
Okay.
portion of it.
And is our fund balance still pretty healthy?
It's
On your high claimants, I think in the past you have stop loss for those, on those, the top claimants
Yeah,
typically.
We still have, it's required to have stuff.
Right, but you can change those and change the numbers, right? You can make it lower, or make it higher, correct? You can buy different plans? If I remember correctly from a while ago.
That's based on the renewal. I don't know
Yes.
that we have an option to do that. It depends. Like, right now, currently, Voya is our carrier for stop loss. They tell us that this particular claimant is going to require this much additional stop loss.
Okay. And you have it capped at right now, what is the stop loss? What's
400 per
Four.
person,
400 per person?
except for we have high cost claimants that have additional stop loss.
I don't have anything.
That's all I got.
Could I?
Yeah, Jesse.
I'm very sorry. So on the bottom left-hand corner here, 21, 22, and 23, 23, those represent full years, and 23, 24 represents
Until
July to
February.
February.
Mhm.
Could I trouble you, and I don't know how much I'm asking for here, could I possibly see the same graph, not now, way later, don't do it in any hurry, the same graph, but where 21, 22 is projected, only the numbers between July and February, and 22, 23 is between July and February?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, I will request that.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Do you know when the committee typically makes the recommendation to the board?
They make it to us.
It all depends.
No, by the time it gets to the board, when?
When we get the suggested funding, I'll put it that way.
Can you pull up the agenda by any chance?
I do have a question for Gretchen. Sorry. Just something I was thinking about.
Yeah.
So you had vacancies this year, right? For teacher vacancies, and probably actually para vacancies and other vacancies that went unfilled, right? Right. And bus drivers, all those positions. How many, so in the budgeting process, you budget for those vacant positions? And then if you don't have them, then what happens to that money?
Goes into the salary bucket to be paid for positions such as, we had vacant speech
Correct.
pathologists. So based on those IEPs, we had to go outside and hire companies to come in and take care of those services.
Mhm.
So we have bus drivers, operators, working triple time and
Right.
being paid on overtime.
Right.
So there isn't a lapse, the way we're used to, what you're used to hearing
Right.
about, there isn't any lapse left. We don't have that left in salaries.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah, because we've always usually have lapsed dollars. Because, yeah, okay.
Quick break. How long would you like?
You guys need to look over everything, right?
Mhm.
So that's up to you guys.
I mean, I don't need a break.
15 minutes. We need.
Okay. I did add, sorry, I think I had talked to Wayne and had Article 13 as well. If that one can be added into the grammatical errors bucket. And I did put it in there right when we started because as I was uploading the articles, I realized I had left that one off. So Article 13 is a grammatical only as well.
Okay.
And it's in there.
It's all in the team's bucket. Perfect. So that's
Yeah, you can, but let me.
Audio is on.
All right.
You want to pull up the agenda first? I think you've got,
We're first.
I think, right? I'm just whatever the agenda says. 327. There you go.
Okay.
So back on the agenda, I think on the grammatical errors piece, instead of they've been provided in the file, we'll just go through to confirm that the technical changes are all good
Okay.
and bring those back. And then I think 2 articles that you'd like to present, and then we've got a counter proposal to present
Okay.
from last session.
Did you want me to display the articles?
Start with, which one's your first
8.
one? 8, if you can pull
I
up
mean,
there, 8.
they kind of
Does
go
she have
together.
No.
Yeah, they should be in there.
It's
Oh, in the
Teams.
file.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
articles.
8.
Here are
And then
copies.
same copies. Thank you.
There's
Oh, yeah, actually,
more than 10 now.
I can scribble.
We have actually-
And 12.
Yeah. Just go. You each get one.
Okay.
I mean, it's easier if I can display it, but
If you can, that'd be
Yeah.
easier, because then you can navigate.
yeah, I've got to pull up.
Brent, yes, you're a tall guy. These bars, you just about got the show of a lifetime. I tried to stand up with my feet like this. Chair went up with me. It'd been
On video.
On video. It's close. Close to my last
All right,
day.
let's roll.
All right.
Thank you.
There should
Yeah,
be,
you should have
3.
8 and 12.
there should,
No, here. I think
should be
it's that
3.
side of the table.
Just 8. They just need 8. We got 12.
All right. Tammy and I met with Wayne this summer, and I think we had all expressed wanting to get MOUs that we have had on the table year after year after year rolled into the contracts, because there are a lot that we continually end up using. So this one we have, all of the red is MOU language for opening of new schools and early transfer requests. If it's bolded in red, that just means that we've changed something to that original language. So we've added number 2, any full-time St. Johns County School District instructional employee with a contract and or position that is continuing through the next school year, seeking a lateral move from one certified position to another, and has received a satisfactory evaluation, may apply for an early transfer. That language is in the MOU already, so we just added that there, and then felt like the steps made sense down here. I'm not going to read all of the steps because it's the same as what was in there. We did change the timeline on the MOU last year to basically an early transfer. The window is open in February, it closes, and then in March is when we conduct interviews. So we kept that timeline. I am now on the hiring side of things as department head, and I felt like that timeline worked as well. So I feel like that worked for both sides, from both perspectives. On number 3, we just included a should, because it used to say instructional employees inform their current principal, and we had conversations about that. I think it was last year, that, you know, it looks better for the employee if they have, but we're not going to require them. I will say, now being a department head and having been on interviews, I understand the district side of like wanting that to happen, but I also understand how it depends on your principal on whether or not they want to inform the principal because of their reaction to to them requesting a transfer. So I feel like should kind of Shows you the expectation from management side, but is not a requirement. And then 4, we changed the language from that submitting a transfer request does not mean the employee will automatically receive an interview, a transfer, or specific assignment desired. And I remember we proposed this last year, that it guarantees the employee an interview at each of their preferred schools, provided there's an opening in their certified subject and/or grade. And I'm just going to make the argument again that as department head, we had 5 people, and we were able to interview all 5 with no issues. And so I feel like just to provide the courtesy to them, and you may or may not want to use them, but at least give them that interview. I think the idea, again, last year is that we are also I know we're trying to recruit teachers, but we're also trying to retain them, right? So like, let's get people where they want to be, so that we can keep them, so that they're not quitting, okay? And then 5 is something that we added, that if an employee is not selected for an early transfer, their name will remain on a list for principals to pull from for hiring for the following school year. Again, it doesn't mean that they have to pull that person, but that way, and maybe that already happens on the management side. I'm not really sure on that part, but we figured that was a good addition there. Again, we went with the timeline where they are, that instructional employees can only be allowed to transfer during the early transfer process once during that window, which is, we agreed last year that it was the month of March, and we're agreeing with that timeline. We just decided, if it's going to the contract, let's not put actual dates, let's just say the month. That makes it a little bit easier when those specific dates change a little bit. And then again, timeline, the month of February is where that is made available to instructional employees. The month of March is when principals are conducting interviews. And then April through the start of the following school year, positions will be posted internally and externally after an internal candidate is not chosen from the early transfer process. At this time, any instructional employee may apply via the online application system. We changed your date of June 30th because that does conflict with what is in Article 12, which is why we're presenting them at the same time. So we can either go to that now, or we can wait until we get to Article 12. What do we want to do?
Probably easier for you to just go through this whole one, because this is
Perfect. Yep.
Wait.
And then involuntary, those were the same. I just changed the numbers there to match, because now we have an extra number up top. And then D is the only change that we made. Then this is the opening of new schools. So we left that first line of when it is necessary to transfer teachers due to the opening of a new school or impact of schools. We took out the line, all procedures shall be agreed upon and signed by the district and SJEA no later than 4 months prior to the commencement of the process, because we feel like this kind of takes care of that. And so again, this is all language that was in the original MOUs that have been passed year after year. And we just added in letter 4 that all negotiated contract language regarding vacancies and reduction in force will be honored, which again, that comes from Article 12 and 13. There were some articles, I think, that didn't actually apply to this that were labeled there that somebody missed somewhere along the line. So, and then 5, we added all provisionally effective and highly effective instructional employees who were non-appointed from schools affected by rezoning will be afforded interviews in accordance with the transfer process and within their certification areas through the start of the following school year. Again, this is that retaining teachers, right? If opening a new school, it causes them to not have a job, we should afford them at least an interview at a school that has an opening. And then we left everything else. We also just simplified some of the academy exception language. It was just, there was like 2 extra sentences on there that we felt was just restating what was already stated. So.
And just so I got the coding, the red is MOU language, the dark red is additions to the MOU language.
Correct. Changes, yeah.
And like when you said on the academy, there was 2 sentences pulled out. Is it just not redlined on this one? Because it looks like you did the strike throughs for most.
I will say, yeah, there were a few things that we left off from the MOU that we felt was redundant. And then I didn't want to have like extra strike throughs on there. And I figured you guys were going to pull up the MOU to look at it anyways. So
that's fine.
yeah.
Just
Yeah, I know. I don't,
Okay. It's all right. We can fix that later.
I can't, I don't think you got to do it that way.
It's all right. Just leave it. It's,
Just gonna do it.
that's all right. Fix it later.
Any questions?
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Too. So on two, just at the very beginning there,
Mhm.
received a satisfactory, effective, or highly effective from the prior year.
Correct.
So that's a change from what's in there this year in the transfer language.
Not that I'm aware of.
So it says
It's in the-
and or what if they weren't there? What the year before? So right, or a 2.5.
Mhm. Let me look at that.
Here.
No, it says that you're, oh, I get what you're saying. We're fine changing that. Observable score of 2.5 or above, because they won't have a final evaluation. I get what your point. So that's not a sticking point for us.
It's not a sticking point to go back to the original language, or
To use what you have, where you have to have received a satisfactory evaluation, the current school year would be observable score of 2.5 or above, because they won't have a final effective or highly effective score
or
per
if they
se.
weren't there last. They weren't in the system. They're full time now, but they didn't have an evaluation from the prior year at all.
But
So
has
we're
that
going
been,
through,
so
we're going
that's,
through that now. We're going through
okay.
some of that now. So, and then I'm just seeking clarification
Okay.
on whether or not you wanted to change it or whether or not it makes.
So I guess what you're saying is that you are wondering if the employee has to have been in the district the year prior in order to qualify for an early transfer?
No, what I'm
Okay.
saying is now what we did is, because it takes significant time, right? You go back because we pull the evaluations and then we look at the currently, and because it is done in February, where there's X number of observations that are complete. So we're trying to be fair and qualify candidates who want to go, who want to do it. So I was just seeking clarification that if you were just trying to revert back to just effective or highly effective from the prior year, or not. That's just a question. In the early transfer piece, so I'm not sure where it is, Morgan, but this is what I heard. So they go on a list, they apply for the early transfer. That's happening now. So the interviews are happening now, right? So you're doing some interviews. So they apply for a position at a school. They're being interviewed now. And then, so we narrowed the window on that because just trying to keep things in buckets, right? And so you're saying if they don't get picked up, that they will remain on a list?
Correct.
So in essence, then, is the early transfer process just open all year then? Would it?
Well, no, our intent was that when there is an opening, like
Simplicity, I think. I think if you had 5 people, you only had one position, but then now another position, but you really liked number 2 person.
Right.
So you just keep them. Doesn't mean you have to hire them, but maybe you call them back and be like, hey, we want to interview you again because we really liked you before. There wasn't a position available, right?
Correct. Like, I don't know if from the management side do you guys keep that list going if they wanted, if we wanted to call up this person and say, hey, like, we didn't hire you during the early transfer window. We now have an opening that we're posting. Can we bring you in for an interview, or would they have to reapply?
So I think we'd want them to reapply. I think it's not, really, this is what we try to do this year is make it much more transparent and much simpler, right? So say, here's the window for early transfer, because you have so many different elements going on. Obviously this year and the next X number of years are unique because we're opening schools as well, right? So we're trying to work on that in terms of transferring employees there. We want to go, here's an early transfer window, all right? And so, but not to have it open, because then it becomes very, very difficult to understand what we have if now I open up a job, you were on my list, I'm just gonna call you to get you back in. It's never stable for us then, and we're trying to
Okay.
get it to a point where you want to transfer, we're giving you the opportunity to transfer.
Okay.
If that doesn't work, for whatever reason, just because then you still have an opportunity to apply, and it would just be, you've already created the application for
Right.
your transfer, and then you have until that window.
Okay.
So, it's just, we think it's simpler now. It's certainly been much easier for us to view it and collate all that through, so there's no list. There's just the application in Apple Track.
Okay.
So that is a change, and I'm just that is a change to the past where there was a list that was
Right.
ongoing, and so so why would they be guaranteed an interview? What's the thought now?
Why not?
That would be my question.
I think the same thing is volume. It may have been.
Has there been a school that's had more than 15 people apply for the same job?
I think some of the elementaries, it does get, it's more specific in secondary, but has there been a complaint that somebody didn't get an interview?
I have
don't know the
not been
answer
on
to
that side of things for
And
long.
Kate
so-
probably hasn't had that experience yet this year.
Well, and the
Because it's just
teachers
happening.
don't necessarily know what
Right.
they're missing because you're applying for a school and then providing like what you're certified in. So we don't know all of the openings available. Does that?
Right.
So
So
we
like,
don't know
we
if
don't
they
know if
don't
it's
So
an
there-
English
interview.
position, like if there's actually an English position available.
So
When we're doing the early transfer.
Yeah, it's transferring to a school.
Right.
So, or multiple schools. So I desire to work at Creekside. Put my name in the hat for Creekside. Then and my certification. Then once the principal, that's what's happening now. That's why there's a month of a window there. Sees what jobs he or she has, then they'll see if you certify in that. So that's why it's not just a simple. So they're really transferring. The intent is to a school
Okay.
or a set of schools, and then that's what we're working on. So that's why the language relative to certification and to highly effective or effective is important. So right now, if I'm at Creekside, I'm interviewing my English certified teachers that
Right.
requested to transfer to me.
Okay.
I'm just curious, do you have the historical data from previous early transfers? Like how many?
This is a new system. We don't. So this
Right,
is the
'cause we
first
just
year.
did it
Yeah.
with Appletrack. But do you have any records kept from the previous years? I know they were paper forms.
Do we have any records? We could check on that. So what am I checking for? That
So
people
just-
weren't interviewed, or?
No, I'm just curious, you asked the question, so I'm curious how many, let's pick.
Yeah, you're
two
concerned about
elementary,
volume.
Two middle, two high
Right.
school, how many applied at Cruikshank? How many
Mhm.
applied at Wards Creek? How many, for
So
the
I think-
early transfer,
So I think
or put it on their
generally
preference?
would be, I interview you, I have 3 positions, I have 4 people that wanted the position.
Right.
I'm going to probably tell the employee, good chance I'm going to have another position open when I get through budget, reapply.
Right. No.
And again, it's just now you're reactivating that application
I
that I've
think
already created. So.
We're more talking about the guaranteeing them an interview because your reason keeps being that, well, there's a volume of applicants, but we're just wondering what are those actual numbers of volume of applicants?
Elementary would be significant.
Okay.
Secondary is a little bit different because of the certification quotient, but I could get you.
Okay. Sorry. That's not-
And so I had on 5, last page.
For vacancies?
Okay, so
This one.
D5 is it?
Yes.
Okay. D5. Okay, so provisionally effective and highly effective. And so that needs to be cleared up. It can't be provisionally. They are or they aren't.
Well, if we're talking about in February, they don't have a final evaluation
So they
score.
would if we go back to the original language, they would have met a different,
Correct. So
That's
yeah,
right,
we'll
that's
need to fix that.
who were non-reappointed from schools affected by rezoning will be afforded interviews. So that's a change.
Mhm.
What's the change? What does the language say now about
Oh,
affected schools?
I don't think there was
Is that just an
any
addition
language.
to the MOU language?
Yeah, it's
Well,
an
It's in
addition.
bold, so.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
I think this is at least, so we can look at it, but this
It's
is
an
supposed to be
addition, yeah.
Okay.
To what H was. Oh yeah, I'm on the wrong one. That's fine.
How we do it. Okay.
Isn't that what this is right here?
No, that's
Oh,
four.
right.
Okay. Fine.
And again, the point being, we've got vacancies in schools, right? We want people to be where they are so that we can retain them. And we don't have people leaving. So we want to make this process as easy as possible for people, and so that we're not having to jump through a gajillion hoops. We've already got enough on our plates as it is. Are we ready for 12 then?
I think so. Oh,
Okay.
I'm ready for 12.
go ahead.
So there's only one change in 12. I did want to point out the language that we felt that we crossed out, that we felt contradicted with language in Article 12, which is C. It says all professional employees may apply for known vacancy within the school district, and all applications will be considered by the superintendent or designee. Professional employees will be given preference over new hires, provided that they are properly certified and qualified. When two or more employees apply for a vacancy, the most qualified employee shall fill the position, provided they are properly certified. The decision of the superintendent regarding recommendations to fill the vacancy is final. Following final action on this recommendation by the board, all professional employees who have applied for the position will receive a written notice of action taken. And so if we go back to, I can't remember what that was. Jen, which one was that? Now I can't remember. Oh, so this is to point out that in this language, we took out, we took out the limited transfer period that you had put in the MOU and left it with instructional employees will only be allowed to transfer via the early transfer process one time during the window. Once the transfer is made, the request is moved. Oh no, that's not what we're talking about. I'm just kidding.
You'll get there.
I had that wavelength, and then we're like, let's wait until we get this one. Sorry. April through the start of the following school year. Positions will be posted internally and externally after an internal candidate is not chosen from the early transfer process. At this time, any instructional employee may apply via the online application system. Article 12 says that any professional employee may apply for any known vacancy within the school district. There's no timeline saying that there's a certain window that they're not allowed to apply. So we feel like that contradicted with language in Article 12. That's why we took that out. And then the only other change we made was in E. If you look at the third bullet point, so this is, first let me go back up to E. It says the association and board recognize the importance and value of employing teachers in critical certification areas and during teacher shortage periods, which we are currently in. In preparation for the next school year, the intent of this section is to allow the district to early hire during recruitment season, which is considered January through June, without advertising. We're fine leaving that 35 positions per year during the recruitment season in certification areas which have been deemed critical needs. we're fine leaving the 20 persons per school year deemed in early recruitment slots to secure qualified teachers when there is an identified teacher shortage. However, we feel like this should only occur after the early transfer process is complete, because now you are you're hiring for these jobs that you're supposed to be giving to people who are trying to transfer. So then what then becomes the point of the early transfer process? We felt like those two ideas contradicted each other if they were happening at the same time. So we put that provision in there. Again, we want to keep our current teachers happy. I get we want to recruit people, but you've got lots of time to recruit people as well. So, and that was it.
Yeah, on C, you said it contradicts, as I understood, the MOU language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there changes in C that I just don't see on here? Or is it just more of an observation like?
No, so we're saying, I just pointed out C because it contradicted with language that we removed from the MOU, and that was our reasoning for removing it.
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, Morgan, so the early transfer process would be February, March, right?
Mhm.
Designed to fill potential positions with growth,
Correct.
right? And so would I not be backfilling those teachers? Hence the early,
But let's say I decide, right, like we have a growth positions at Tokyo, right? We're one of the only schools in the district that has quite a few. Let's say I decide that I am going to hire somebody from Creekside, right? Then yes, Creekside will then have a position open, but there could be somebody in the early transfer process that had said, I want to be at Creekside. So that should occur first, right? And then, so yeah, you are going to have this domino effect, but all of those current employees should get to the schools that they want to get to first. And then you'll know, okay, well, we now have these particular positions that we need to hire for. And then you guys could do an early recruitment fair.
so I get it. So the general philosophy would be that's why it's in those kind of hard to fill critical needs.
Mm-hmm.
So an early hire that we hire externally, we don't necessarily hire for a school.
Okay.
So they wouldn't, so it's not taking a slot of a early transfer person to Creekside. It's just like, we feel pretty confident we're going to have an ESE job. And once we get through the hiring process, we would tell that critical needs
Mhm.
person, here's the position in the school. We wouldn't necessarily
Right.
hire for Creekside.
But I could be mistaken, but there have been APs at my school that in the month of March have gone to early recruitment fairs. So are they just recruiting for the district and not for Tokyo specifically?
Generally, yeah, they'd be recruiting for the district and or for critical needs positions. We wouldn't identify it as a Creekside position until the schools go through budget.
Okay.
So that's why. So we're trying to do it as early as possible, but it would be in that language: critical needs, ESE, reading, high level maths. You're right. You can name those, but not school specific.
Okay.
So that would still give the internals the transfer capacity.
Okay.
That's how we've been doing it.
I don't think we need that. I don't think we need that.
No, obviously we don't know all the inner workings of
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need that.
So-
So.
Okay.
Can we pull up Article 2?
Do you want me to relinquish control?
Pull it up. Here's copies of our, yeah, you can tell the color code on the copies, but they're easier to see on the teams.
No, you don't have to.
We need a couple more.
No, we need it.
Here's some extras.
Thank you.
Oh, my quads. I can't. Going forward though.
It's in articles. It's in articles. It was at the bottom one.
Yeah, it's, yep.
Okay, can you hear me okay? For color coding purposes, this is our counter proposal on Article 2. The yellow is an addition that we made to the proposal. The red is language that you had added last time.
Okay.
And the strike through is language that you had proposed to strike through last time.
Okay.
So I think, and then there might be, there's a couple of spots where we rejected the proposed change. Is that color coded? Like look on page, look at number F or letter F. Okay. Keep going. Yeah, it'll be highlighted. So we'll go through each one of those as we go. Yeah, so A, I think we were good with the changes.
Okay.
B, we had proposed adding the term designee to principal because it may not be the actual principal, it may be his or her designee. On C, again, no changes to your proposal. D, I think our first proposed change is on D1. That was language that you had proposed to strike through. We had proposed to place that back. Our thought process behind that was if things are going to be posted on the bulletin board, the principal or the administrator at the school or the designee should be able to get a copy of it when it's distributed. If there's been an issue with that, that's what we would just ask. If you've had a scenario before where something has been tried, you have attempted to post something on bulletin board and there's been an issue with it, let us know. But we felt more comfortable knowing that if something was going to go up, that we would, because it was in the school, we would have an opportunity to be provided with it.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that?
Of
Or do you
course.
want to wait? So,
No, just go.
so we on bulletin boards will have set it up. It'll say FEA and then legislative titles. So the principal wants all of that too. So like it's a bulletin board kit, for example. So it'll be like Florida Education Association, Association News, legislative. So they want a copy of our bulletin board kit too? I'm just asking. It's kind of a weird.
I don't know I think the intent there is that if it's going up on the bulletin board, we get a copy, but that's, yes.
Can I also,
And in 22 years, there's
I
never.
can't speak for every,
Never been a
administrator in
problem,
here.
ever. I'm just saying, I've been here for 22 years. There's never been a problem and administrators never said, why haven't you given us a copy of the documentation? So it goes back to the questions you guys ask us a
Right.
lot. Is there a problem with it?
well, you had proposed the deletion.
Yes.
And so our response to that is, while you may not, or we may not have encountered a problem with it, we would like the right when we're managing the schoolhouse to get a copy of what's placed on the bulletin board.
Okay.
she has a question. Or this one.
Chime in.
It does say shown or provided.
Yeah, show us the
So
kit.
like I'm thinking to myself, you come in and say, hey, we updated the bulletin board and the staff job or whatever. Okay, I'll take a look.
Okay.
So not necessarily like here's a thing for every principal. Wow. is what I think.
Oh, we don't have enough to do that. It cost FEA money.
Well, it says show.
So.
So I think that addresses your question about the kit.
Oh, okay. That's just funny to me.
Did you say it was funny?
It is funny to me
Okay.
that it's a little ridiculous, but okay.
It's fine. Scroll down to, again, the only change I think there.
You crossed out 3, part of 3.
The last line.
No, the
The
last
one.
part of
Just
it.
do the last
In the
line,
event
sorry.
something is removed.
Yes, we struck through that. It should be highlighted in yellow.
Read the last sentence.
3, yeah. In the event, yeah.
Yeah, that's supposed to be highlighted instead of.
Correct.
And unstrike it.
Unstrike it. Oh,
Because you guys want it back in.
We added it.
No,
We added
we
it.
struck through it.
No, we added this sentence.
Oh,
That's what I
gotcha.
read.
Got you.
They're trying to say that they don't want it in there.
Okay, perfect. Never mind. Got it. I apologize.
Has there been well, I don't want to do the rhetorical.
Don't do that, because.
It is what it is. I'm not going to ask you the rhetorical question because we can do that for every.
We
There will
absolutely
be
can.
some where it is necessary.
We absolutely
All right.
can.
On F,
Sorry, I just fixed it for her.
thank you. On F, there were two provisions there that we talked through. One was you're striking through the maximum of 2, and then also striking through the rest of it. We talked through that, and from our perspective, being able to limit the number was important to us. But the next portion of that sentence, where it was a little bit more difficult to get your folks in there by requiring this official list and written credentials, we were comfortable with striking that out. So that actually, yeah, that's fine. It's coded fine.
Sorry, we never got to, or was it that your response to not wanting this? Sorry, I'm pointing to it on my screen and realizing that you guys are seeing what I'm pointing at. In the event something is removed, the association representative will be notified. Your reason for wanting to strike through that is your famous phrase of, has it been a problem?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is
I was just
having to.
wanting to clarify.
Yes.
Okay.
You know what? I will tell you, though, that does happen. A lot of times, insurance stuff, we remove the insurance stuff that gets put on the union bulletin board, or insurance stuff sometimes, not as common anymore because you have your own, but a lot of times things get moved over, or like board policies or reporting this. The union bulletin board should be the union bulletin board, should be the union bulletin board, and all the other stuff shouldn't be on the union bulletin board. So there has been actually cases where that has happened. Just putting that out there.
Because I go out to the schools also. So sometimes there's a lot of students that are benefit.
Probably because they don't have a union bulletin board.
Yeah, it's
Right, so we remove that because we don't want to mix the insurance.
So in the event, so there's the example. In the event that happens, then we should be notified that all of the union bulletin board stuff has been removed so that the building rep knows. That would be my thought. We shouldn't be removing anything unless if they should have their own bulletin board is the point. So it does happen. There's your example.
Well, we do report to the secretary. Tell them to-
They don't tell anyone. I can tell you that. I know that. Can tell you. No one tells us that things are being removed. Correct me? No one tells us things are being removed from the bulletin board.
No, and I can say as building rep, I did periodically have to go in and check my board, and a lot of times it's like PTO because they're excited and they put stuff up or something. So I would just move it. I didn't get rid of it. I would just put it in a more appropriate place.
Anyway. What does happen?
I already explained F.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't think you have any questions on
Nope.
why. Just needed to consider it. And then can you go to those two? I think G, we did not have any changes. H, there's one. And it was more of a, and can I kind of explain the why behind it, adding the president language is, obviously Public Records Act is what it is. Can't circumvent Public Records Act. I would not be comfortable doing language in here that was runs afoul of the Public Records Act. But having I in there is kind of restating what Public Records Act would already permit. Anybody can do a public records request.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we added president was, again, I don't know who was here when this was drafted, but it gave off the intent that if like bargaining was ongoing and a public records request was made and we knew, hey, we need to come back, we're dealing with whatever issue it is, and there's a targeted, I don't want to say target, but a targeted public records request from the association because we're doing these things at bargaining. If that was the intent, adding president helps us just from having the understanding it's going to come from one source. if, again, Public Records Act is what it is. Anybody can submit one at any time. So we're not trying to limit that right. We're just kind of our impression of the intent behind specifically putting that in there was it was in the context of bargaining, and there may be something that you need kind of for the bargaining table. It might help with communication if it's coming from the association president. If there's no intent behind it, I don't know why it's in there.
Can I make the argument that you guys at the top with requesting school grounds, you said principal or a designee, can we say president or a designee, i.e. me? Like as chief negotiator, I have to go through the president to request records? Like that just.
Well, it goes back. The answer is, yeah, you can do it. Anybody at your table can do it. This was just really, but was this put in here for the intent that it was streamlined along with what we're doing in bargaining?
I think it limits though. I think by saying that it limits.
Right, but by saying just the association already limits. So why is it in there in the first place? I don't know. There may be a very good reason, but 119 is what it is. Any member of the public can submit it. So
I mean, it could just be any member of the bargaining unit or whatever can request an official public records request.
So what's the why? Do we know why that's in there?
You guys added president.
No, I'm saying the original language. We were trying to go through the original language.
Maybe back when it was not
as open?
Maybe.
Okay. Because the reason adding it wasn't to limit it, was okay, if we're bargaining, like the question today about insurance, right? Can you go pull those records? It's a public records request? Sure. If it's coming from the association president to public records, we just discussed that at the table. So we know we have a session coming up in a couple of weeks. There's an open public records request from the president. That was what we kind of understood. Maybe that's the purpose of I. If it's not the purpose of I, then I don't know what function I serves.
Well, let me ask a question then. What is the time frame when an individual person puts in a public records request?
Reasonable amount of time to gather, review, and produce the records.
What is reasonable amount of time? A month?
Depends on the scope of the record. It's, 119 doesn't say. It's the time it takes is essentially what reasonable is. And so if you do a request for 15 million emails, you may get them in 6 months. If you ask for one, you may get it in a day.
So I think then the point behind this is that the association, meaning anyone possible on this bargaining team or whatever, would be that then our list goes to the priority list. If we need it because of bargaining, it goes to a priority list and we get it before anyone else.
That's what I'm concerned. I feel uncomfortable.
Or designee.
I don't have an issue with that, but again, just trying to understand the intent of it. That was why we added the word president in there. So,
all right, we can talk.
Talk about it, but that's.
I just feel like it. I feel like it limits too. So.
Not going to try to limit 119.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's Mr. Rich. The last one maybe. Oh.
Yeah, so I think that one, Morgan, last week, we're talking about the representatives should be given an opportunity to close. So we should put a whole faculty assemblies to present brief reports and announcement. So we went back and forth, whether it was a PLC, whether it was a faculty meeting. So that's where we got to on whole faculty presentations or assemblies.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Did we want to caucus?
Well,
Yeah, I'm not going to speak for the entire group, but I'm not sure we're going to have, because I want to go back and qualify all of the MOUs with this language too. I may have a couple of follow-up questions, but we're just trying to gather evidence so we'd be prepared to have a counter
Okay.
So we can
Well,
caucus and you.
yeah, we can caucus because we might be able to have an answer for 2 tonight. Yeah. Jen? Yeah.
We can probably get to the answer on 2, I think.
Yeah, I think are you guys gonna have any of the grammatical stuff to TA on tonight or no?
We could possibly go through, if you're gonna spend some time on 2, we can use the time to go through and see if
Okay.
there's any that are clear
Might just
cut.
pick a couple.
Okay.
I don't think it'll take us long on 2.
No, it won't. Yeah, I would say let's say meet back at 8 o'clock.
Sure.
I'll let you know if it's before that, but I think we'll be good to go.
Gotcha.
So, okay, so I wanted to go back on something I said that was incorrect.
Okay.
So when we look at language here is critical needs and early recruitment on Article 12.
Thank you.
So there are two things happening, Ms. Mouser. One is there are early hires direct for schools, to your point from your system. And then there are also district hires. So I was there as a district employee hiring for the district. So I misspoke, that they weren't all. And then part of the sort of projection would be looking at current number of openings that we have, right? Based on owner's numbers, projected student growth, which would obviously equate to teachers. So if you go those numbers, that would be 50 additional teachers. And, over either time, we're trying to get some, just I've wanted an area that gets bumped, I need to see some documentation on that, but who does the transfer has met the requirements negotiated here. Go schools, right? What we did notice is we're applying for 12 different schools, so we're not sure. So these numbers we may come back to look at when we talk about critical needs and purely, but for us, it needs to start as early as we can to fill it. So that's why.
Okay.
So I just wanted to clarify, and we'll bring this back the next time, that we do have both, the district hire and individual school hire.
Okay. So could you bring us some numbers perhaps on how much is happening during the month of March while these people are trying to get schools they want to get? How much hiring you're doing for the 6 schools?
Voila.
Thanks. You have something else right now?
I do.
You want to go with yours? That's fine.
No, we can put yours up.
Mine will be quick. I don't actually have it put up, but
Okay.
there was
Okay.
the number of exchange on teams. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 articles. I think 5 of them were. So we brought copies of it. I'll tell you they were number 8. Article 20. Maybe I missed. I didn't see any changes.
There weren't.
Okay, so
That's why that one said no changes in the title.
2020.
Correct.
Okay.
Do we, in full
So we
book,
don't need to
is
do this.
curious, and passed on it, in full book, should we still TA that article even if there's no changes?
I mean, I don't know what past practice is here, but that's
Consensus is yes.
pretty common
Okay.
with my other.
That's what I think too.
So that's 18, 20, and then 21, which is school improvement, educational accountability. No issues with those.
Those are copies.
Oh, I have extras. Do you need
Are
extras,
copies so
Morgan?
they can sign.
We have a bunch of copies of it.
Okay.
Yeah, we got
No, I see it.
22.
2 copies.
21, 22.
22 is First Coast Technical College.
Mhm.
And then 23, St. John's Virtual School.
You have 2 copies. I have a copy here. The additional copies for
If we TA, we'll just need 1 for you guys and 2 for us. So
you to have them.
perfect.
And then I can tell you the reason why the other 2 of the 7 are not. If you want to pull them up, I can just tell you what the issue is. It's 13 and 19 are the 2 of them. And it's only that opening sentence, not sure it's grammatical. If with the deletion of the word work, I mean, the purpose of a RIF is when there's a decrease in necessary work, but I think adding positions changes the entire dynamic of the sentence.
Okay.
Because in the event the board determines that the employees must be reduced due to decrease of positions, I mean, the reasons why a RIF would be put into place are what is after the reason for the reduction, decrease of work, lack of operating funds, or other economic reasons. So I didn't think that was a grammatical change.
Okay, we just made it positions because from our standpoint, that's what you're decreasing. If it's a reduction in force, you're decreasing positions. So we weren't meaning to change it. That was just more clear on our end of what it is that
Okay.
you were talking about in terms of work.
I mean, I guess, what does decrease of work mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that
I mean,
means you're only going to
it's-
have to work 5 hours instead of 7.5 hours.
You think we would?
Oh, I get from that standpoint. That
Okay.
makes sense. Okay, we were thinking like there's a decrease in the amount of work, and I think we just thought like then you
In
wouldn't need positions, but I get what you're saying in terms of maybe it's just the amount of hours that have to decrease.
It could be.
Right, okay,
That was it.
okay.
That was the only.
And then
comment.
you guys were good with they and efficiency because they don't.
I didn't
supposed to be
understand
there.
what other economic, I mean,
The efficiency.
whether it's economic reasons or economic,
Yeah.
was it intended to say or other economic? Okay, then I didn't know if the they efficiency was just leftover language, but if the they then is not necessary.
They is not necessary.
Other economic efficiency reasons is then what it should read.
Yeah, we just felt like efficiency was redundant, so that's why we took it out. But I mean, it's not a.
Die on the hill.
Yeah, we're not going to die on that hill. So
That was it on that.
Yeah.
Can we just make this adjustment
Yeah.
now?
If you
Yeah.
can make the
Okay.
adjustments and print it, where
So we're leaving work because that makes sense. And then we just build this thing at the same time.
and just make sure there's not anything else, if you would mind, after she's done. If we can just, unless you,
Oh, down at
that's
F,
13.
we just added a comma after qualified done.
That's the only other change?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to add comments to make it a little bit easier to see.
That's what I was able to follow those. Okay, then if that's it, then the
Okay.
rest of it's fine.
So you'll have to print it.
Yep.
3 copies.
Okay, and then what was the other one?
19. And it's just the opening adding of the word days. I had to reread it a couple of times. Having at least 5 days accrued sick leave days. I think,
Oh, maybe we missed that.
okay.
Oh, yep. That was a mistake on my part, sorry.
No, will you just see if there's anything else? There was a bunch of changes
There's
on
just
this.
a
It
comma.
was mostly commas. And there were some semicolons, I think. You just changes colons to commas.
Yeah. No, I felt like the commas did not need to be there. So all participating members shall contribute 1 additional sick leave day in order to continue membership if the balance in the bank is diminished to 200 days. If you put commas around in the order to continue membership, then that means that that clause is not essential, and it is in that sentence.
Fine.
I think that was it.
Can probably get that up on 1 page, possibly. You don't have to print out 2 pages to leave this extra.
Is there anything else though after that?
Very little on the second page.
There's just that 1 sentence, so there's nothing else.
You're sure?
Oh.
Oh,
There's more. Yeah,
oh,
there you go.
why is it?
I still think it was all grammatical, but it just messed up the
Oh,
pages.
spacing is being weird. Okay.
That's fine. It's
Yep.
plural.
A possessive apostrophe. And, yep, just commas.
Okay.
No,
There's
nope.
more.
No,
Oh my
there's
gosh, why is the spacing all weird? Yeah, there didn't need to be a comma there.
Mhm.
And an incorrect usage of a comma there.
That was it.
Okay. We gotta fix the spacing before we print them.
I think sometimes when they imported things, the spacing changes.
Oh, okay. So do you want us to fix it?
Phyllis, can you just fix it so there's no all the spaces?
Morning, Sorkin.
Oh, I know what she's having. I think. Phyllis is-
I mean, I can just email Phyllis my copy of it.
Oh, I'll do that.
Just, don't worry about it. They can bring it next time.
What were the two?
Can you just bring it next time?
My notes in there. Oh,
Yeah.
great.
They'll just bring it, Terry, we can just bring it, she
That's
can
fine.
just bring it next time and
Okay.
fix the formatting, so it's
13
not
and
like,
18.
So, so really
Yeah.
18 to 23, then we're
13, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, but we still need to sign off on 13 and 18.
Okay. Do you want to look at Article 2 first and then sign, or do you want to sign now and then look at Article 2?
Look at Article 2 first, but do you want, our last piece is also Article 8 and Article 12. We owed
Yeah.
you.
yeah,
No,
go ahead.
we
Just, I
didn't really
think
write it
we
down.
tried to go through it when we were over, and if, feel free to add if I miss anything, but we were pulling the MOUs, trying to compare the language and go through it, and I just don't think we're in a position to be able to like,
We didn't think you would be.
okay.
Yeah.
That was it on those two.
All right, Article 2, we're fine with leaving designee in on B1. We're fine with you keeping D1 in. I think you guys accidentally crossed out the rest of 2, so I just added it back. I would assume that you'd want items to be non-political in nature.
Thank you for catching that.
Yep.
Which should be reiterated in board policy, but
Right, yeah, we figured either way, it's in board policy, but, on D3, the numbers are all messed up here, but on, it should be D, what's that? 5. We are countering with leaving what we've added in, only because we feel like if we're showing the principal what's going on the board and we're giving them that courtesy, then why could the principal or their designee not give us that courtesy back to say, hey, we're removing this because it's not appropriate or whatever. So we're going to kind of hold on that one. We're fine with you leaving in limited to a maximum of 2 at any one time for F. And we do not want to add the word president as you guys are asking.
Okay.
I think. Oh, and then O. We don't like the implications of the word whole faculty meeting assembly. We're fine with leaving faculty assemblies in. The definition of the word assembly kind of encompasses all the things that I think that we are talking about in terms of professional development, whatever meetings are happening. But whole has the implication that if there is a certain group of teachers that is not there, then we could not address whoever is in the room at the time. So we just want to remove the word whole, and we're fine with using the word assemblies to kind of encompass the rest of the intent for that one.
that's not
Mhm.
Is that, you already dropped that in there?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've got it added back in the notice that you requested. Remove the president portion,
Mhm.
added back in non-political strike through. Oh, remove the word whole,
Mhm.
and then
Take on president.
notifying you in the event that something's removed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you can worry about the numbers. It's fine, the numbers can be worked later. Just highlight it, you might want
I'm gonna have to delete it, but then.
to, yeah. You get it? Oh,
Can you go back through them just one more? Okay, just the 5. For me, that something was removed, the association representative will be notified. Okay.
You want me to go back through all of them?
Just want to make sure I got
Okay.
it all. I don't want to slow it.
So yeah, again, we're fine with your change to designee. Oh god,
Added back in notice to the association.
added back in two that I think you guys accidentally struck through.
Okay.
We're okay with leaving in the copy should be shown to the administrator.
Got it.
We're fine with F leaving back in or putting back in limited to a maximum of any two at any one time. We want to strike, we don't want to put in president for I, and then again,
hold,
the word
O.
hold. Yep.
Okay. I think we need 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to just go chat about it, go and hang out, we'll come back. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then
So-
we have these copies here.
Oh yeah, I'll start signing.
8:33.
34. Third copy. You live?
And a wife is
Saturday night?
Yeah, you're never retired.
just gonna- I'll be sitting at the table.
You'll be the night
and
girl.
I'm demanding my paper copies. Where's my teams? ChatGPT will replace everybody anyway.
Yeah. So
We're
that's
all
true.
gonna be useless as humans. We are. ChatGPT is gonna take all of us.
Sad.
All of us, especially me.
Somebody took a sinister
I'd
tone.
like to see Chat
telling
GPT
you.
at a court hearing, though. That would be interesting.
It's happened, and I will tell you a good story after. the
Oh
fact.
my gosh.
Oh, and it was not good.
Well, I can imagine.
Oh, it's a great
That's
story.
scary.
I would never do that.
That's
Okay.
really scary.
So we'll just go through it on two, make sure we caught it all. Phyllis, do you have that up there? Okay. Fine with adding designee, well, obviously.
Yours.
I was just gonna say, obviously.
We're double fine with it.
Double fine.
Nothing on that one yet. And then we were just gonna add back in, Phyllis, on number 2.
Unstrike it.
It'll say items placed on bulletin boards. Yeah, just unstrike the whole thing, right?
Well, no, we just got rid of place on bulletin boards
Yeah.
and just said all
That's fine.
items are to be non-political in nature.
So
Because it covers email, all that stuff.
So on number 2, where it says items placed, unstrike place on bulletin boards. I'm sorry, yeah. Now strike through place on bulletin boards. Yes. Just placed on bulletin boards, those 4 words are to be non-political in nature. Yep.
Correct.
Yep. We're good with the next one, the add in the event something is removed.
Okay,
Fine to go with that.
okay.
And then,
Double fine with that.
yes, keep going down, past F, right, yeah, past G, past right there. So good with your changes on to open to examination 2. Fine with striking through the president that you don't want to accept. Fine adding can request. This was not on our original, but do you have any issue with that terminology? Okay. I just
No.
added
That,
exempt,
I mean, that's.
the law.
It's the law. Makes sense.
And then keep going down. And then we may need to, I got a quick question first, and then I'll go through it. So if the request here in O is that there be this opportunity at the close of these meetings to provide these announcements, what is the intent? Is it of when and where you do that?
Our original intent for crossing out at regular faculty meetings is that there are lots of schools who are not having regular faculty meetings. So then that limits when we can actually present things to the faculty. So we're just trying to say, if there is a meeting with a group of faculty, like we can at the end of the meeting say, hey, we've got this information to present to you.
Okay, so our proposal on O, from where we just left, is I think you had struck through the word whole.
Mhm.
We had added was at which all faculty members are invited. And again, trying to specify what our intent was with the word whole. But what you're saying from your intent here is if there's any faculty meeting, there should be this opportunity regardless of whether it's all faculty or it's 5 faculty members or that's okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that would be our counter proposal. I think understanding your intent now, I think we'd like it to say what it says.
okay.
So
But
if
yeah,
we need time to talk about it, that's fine, but
yeah, the only issue with that is, again, if a school is not having a whole faculty meeting, then there's not going to be a meeting where all faculty members are invited. You get the problem.
I hear that.
And I'm not saying that we feel like we should be able to, there's a group of, at a PLC meeting, there's a group of 5 people and we should be able to corner people into information. It's just more, there tends to be subsects of faculty that meet on a regular basis. That's not necessarily 5 people, maybe it's 30, right? That we would want to be able to address, because again, there are schools that are not holding regular faculty meetings where everyone in the entire school is invited.
Are there, I don't know the answer to this, are there any schools that have not at any point the entire year had an all faculty invitee meeting?
We had some people in our group say yes.
Okay.
And is there a certain like number a year, like is that you generally present at?
I mean, our school has probably one a month.
No, but that you would want to come in to present to.
I think that the intent behind it is a lot of times it's one, introduced maybe at the
Sure,
beginning of the school
right.
year, you
Mhm.
introduce who the building reps are. 2, it could be, hey, ratification is occurring. Do you have questions for any of us regarding ratification? No one's ever forced to stay
No, yeah.
at any meetings. I mean, it's like, usually it's at the end, it's a few minutes of, listen, if you want to stay and listen to what happened in, negotiations yesterday, whatever, I think, I mean, honestly, most of the time it's about that, or it could be, it's just union members that stay and they're like, hey, listen, we have to elect a building rep for the school, or it's an opportunity just to say, we just have a few words that we want to say. Sometimes even staff like, Kate or Michelle or me or whatever has been involved, come to a big staff meeting and the principal lets us get up and say, hey, I've been to some transportation meeting,
And that's according to team members has been a problem. You've been not allowed to do that.
No, I think the idea is, the problem is that there are schools who are not having that opportunity because those meetings aren't being held.
And there isn't a different opportunity provided.
Can I ask one clarifying question too to all that? But I don't want to interrupt you, so I'm sorry.
Okay, so we've had like one whole staff meeting. Like it's, I feel bad saying this, but we've had like one whole staff meeting post pre-planning week all year. But it wasn't like a staff meeting, it was a behavior training. It wasn't a staff meeting, it was a behavior training.
In O,
We get weekly emails, so a lot is done through weekly emails.
Well, and I will say at Tokoi, like our full faculty meetings they're PD, like we're learning something like in the auditorium. So technically it's not considered a faculty meeting. So if we use the word, faculty meeting, that kind of excludes that as well. So that's our intent, is like, we need to be able to address the whole staff at times. And it's always, hey, if you want to say, we have some information for you, and people can leave, right? We're not forcing anyone to stay in the building and listen to what we have to say.
for the last 2 stricken through sentences, language that currently exists that you structure it.
Correct.
Because what I'm trying to understand from what you just said is those last 2 sentences kind of say what you just said. And that's why I asked. I really didn't know if that was our structure or yours, but in any school which does not hold regularly scheduled faculty meetings, the representative will have the opportunity at faculty meetings that are held.
So maybe we need to change, like,
Go back. That's what we were trying to do when we structured each regular. We made it just at the close of.
Ours originally said, because you guys struck out meeting and changed it to
Yeah,
assembly.
it's
So
hard to
ours
follow.
originally said, the association faculty representative shall be given the opportunity at the close of faculty meetings and or professional development to present brief reports and announcements. Because we felt like if it's not a faculty meeting that's being held, it's not being titled a faculty meeting, it's a professional development that we're attending in the auditorium, that covers that. That was our intent there, not that we're like going to PLC meetings,
Sure.
trying to address this small team of people. So, and again, the representative, if we left in the part that you're saying that we struck through, the representative shall have this opportunity at faculty meetings that are held. Well, again, we're saying that faculty meetings aren't being held. So then when do they get this opportunity?
So I had a question on that.
Yes.
So
the whole intention here is to make sure that the rep is able to speak to the teachers.
Correct.
And give them information. Is there anything holding back the rep from having their own meeting after school?
There is not, but I will tell you that they're not well attended. If I were to send out an email and say, hey, I'm having a 10-minute meeting, or I'm having this meeting to explain this, everyone wants to get out the door.
So my question there is, how is that different than when you have a meeting and everybody can leave if they want? They just get up and leave.
Because people are curious to hear what we have to say, and that they will often stay because they're already there. And they're like, oh, I've got 5 minutes, like, let me just see what they have to say.
Gotcha. Just trying to figure out another way.
Yeah.
Since there aren't meetings.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of, I mean, things are changing now to
Mhm.
where meetings are kind of going away, professional development's coming into play. There's a lot of differences now. It's
Right.
just the way of doing business,
Yeah,
which causes an issue for the rep, which is there another way that the rep, I guess
Right.
that's what I'm saying, is there another way that the rep can
and
talk to?
yeah, and we understand that you're not wanting us to like go into these PLC meetings and whatnot, but we just need,
Well, part of it too is, I think when you have a manager or a district leader driven meeting, and then you have it after that meeting, that's different than maybe a meeting that teachers run, that maybe the teacher doesn't want you in their room doing that, but then all of a sudden it's in the contract that you can come into their little meeting and they don't want you in their little meeting.
right,
And then we can't tell you that you have to leave because it's in the contract. And then all of a sudden it's hindering, not that your intention is to do that, but
yeah,
it's hindering those meetings. So, you know, is it more of a leader-directed meeting, a leader-driven meeting? Because then we can say, oh, yeah, you know, we're driving it, you can stay. But to make Miss McGillicuddy say, hey, I'm having my science meeting, and then the rep comes in whether you like it or not, I'm not sure that's a good thing.
right,
So I think,
yeah, that's not.
I think we under-
I know that's not the
Yeah.
intent, but I think that
Right.
could happen.
I think we understand your
Yeah.
intent. So what we, maybe we can work on the language.
Okay.
I think we can get there.
Okay.
Right. As long as, I think Terry's question was more of what was the intent? So
Right.
rather than guessing, that's why we asked.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we can get there.
Okay,
We're good on everything on that except that. And
yeah, and we can figure out some
Yep.
language for it. We'll look that over too and see if we have any suggestions next time.
Okay.
How we can meet in the middle somewhere.
So I think the only other issue is next dates, right?
Yes, and I am gonna have to change our April 24th date. I was invited to review the English certification exam for teachers, so.
That's very cool.
Sounds like a
Good opportunity.
Moderately exciting.
Exciting.
She's exciting about it.
I don't know.
fun to me.
You're doing an English exam?
Yeah.
Nightmares of those.
Right?
English, King's English.
King's English. There you go. So when is our next?
The 10th, April 10th.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
And then
That's right.
Phyllis, you got suggest as well, just so we're not. April 3rd, suggest by April 10th here.
Mm-hmm.
Then what's up? What suggest after April 3rd?
We don't have anything right now.
Reserve. So you want to do 17th still?
She won't be here.
Because I'm supposed to be in Atlanta.
Oh, there we go. Terry won't be here
Rob
either.
may have to be at one or two if necessary, but
And then,
he was
yeah,
going to be at that one, but
the week of the 24th, the only day I could do would be the 22nd.
What day of the week is it?
That's a Monday. Or we just push it to the 1st, but then that gives us 3 weeks in a row in May.
Can you do 3 weeks from that?
which weeks?
It'd be the
First,
1st,
second, third?
the 8th, and the 15th.
First. 8th is already,
Yeah, and the 15th is already in there.
the first and the 8th is already on there, and the 15th is already on there. I believe, so it would be April 10th, May 1st, May 8th, May 15th.
Yeah.
I believe that will work. The only date that I will need to double check on is May 1st.
Well, next session we can figure it.
Yes, I'll have a response on that.
And I will let you know which articles we'll have. We got a good list of things to work through, so.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for
Yeah, thank
Still
you.
the sign stuff.
all your efforts.
Fine.
Just one missing.
All right. No gavel to bang, but we're.
The keeper of the TA.
Phyllis, I got signatures.
I'm going to text Sally before I forget.
I want